Welcome to Aaron Plays. In this episode, we'll be continuing our game of Fire in the Lake with me as the USA and the bots using the Tru'ng expansion playing the other three factions. In the prior episode, we actually played the very first card of the game. That took a whole video to go through. Hopefully we'll be able to pick up the pace, but let's see. So, in the last video, the US and the Arvin played on the cards. They're not eligible for the upcoming card. The card we've got, probably for the upcoming card. So, domino theory. It does show that the Arvin would have first choice, but they're not eligible, so it goes to the VC. So let us see what they will do. First thing I'll look at is this table here. So the VC are the first eligible, and I would check to see if the current event is critical and effective. So I look at the card number 82, and I look at this table. So I look at card, which gives all the cards, numbers, and the respective bots, and what they view that card as. So card 82 would be critical for the US if the US was playing or as a non-player. For the VC, it's a P, which is performed, which is a special condition. So it's not critical. It hasn't got a C in that position. So that is not true. Current event is critical and effective. It's not. So we now go on to step 2. Next eligible could choose critical event. So the next eligible on this particular card is the NVA because Americans aren't eligible. So again, look at card 82. No, it's not critical for the NVA. But yes, the bots are playing against each other. All right, so that statement is not true. So moving on. First choice on upcoming critical event. So they actually look at the next card. Well, they're not first choice on the upcoming event, they're the third choice. So that's not true. So then they do otherwise, which is op and special activity. So that's telling me that's what they're choosing. Op and special activity. So that moves into that position there. So this will be the first time we use the deck of cards that it comes with in the game. Now, the deck of cards, each faction that is played in the game as a bot has 6 cards, which are then shuffled into the deck. So there's a total of 18 cards, 6 VC, 6 Arvin, and 6 NVA. So I shuffle the cards, and then whatever's the top card, I ignore. I'll still put that at the bottom, and I keep doing that until I draw the first card for the VC. And we're using card VCX. VCX, what does that mean? There, we'll bring up the cards. Let me zoom in. Like that. And scroll a little bit. VCX. Each card has a letter. We all start on the front side. So what do these all mean? So this little number here, it shows that any activity that gets stopped on this card or in a province or area, if I have to make a roll, I have to get higher than that number to continue. So starting with the first blue box, it's asking questions to see what actual operation and special activity I will choose. So if the option here is correct, the green tick, I then move on. If it's not, I then follow what this dictates. So if this is not true, here it says I will draw a new card. If it is true, I move on to this one. If this condition is not true, I will turn this card over to its flip side. So each of these cards has two sides, and you always start on the A side, at the front face, they call it. So let's any 2 plus population spaces without VC guerrillas. 2 plus pop spaces without VC guerrillas. These are 2 population spaces, squares being the population. So that's got a VC guerrilla, that's got, this one hasn't. So any was the question, and the answer is correct. Are there 3d6 available VC pieces? At the present moment, there are 14. So it allows me to now roll 3d6. If that number is equal to or less than the available pieces, that answer will be correct. So let's roll the dice. So the dice are here over this side. There's a blue dice there. Let's roll it 3 times. 1, 2, 3. They came out in that order. So that total is 3, 4, 5, 6. Is that less than that? 6. The answer is yes. Going down. That tells me they are now going to do a rally. Which, let's move this over to here, is over here. Let me zoom in a bit on that. Purpose, augment or recover friendly forces. Any provinces or cities without support. Support. So it can be done in, remember that each of these areas has 5 states: active support, passive support, neutral, passive opposition, active opposition. So this rally can be done in any space that doesn't have any support. So it can be done in a neutral, passive opposition, or active opposition. Cost 1 resource per space. Now, as I mentioned in a prior episode, the NVA and the VC do not pay for these operations. That's where the die roll comes in to see if they continue doing rally in various spaces. And then the procedure, place 1 VC guerrilla or replace 2. So that is the rules. How does that alternate or change with this card? Well, it tells us in rally, number 1, and I'll follow these through in order. Place spaces where 3 or more VC guerrillas. So I first of all look on the board to see if there's any space where 3 or more VC guerrillas. Was 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. I think these are just ones. So the answer to that question is no. So they're not missing any bases. 2, select spaces using place guerrillas. Okay, so this is where I'm going to now show a new table. Okay, so I will now bring up this new chart. Non-player Viet Cong, space selection priorities. And it was said use the place guerrillas option. So I will now go through these here and take note of where these little dots are to tell me where it will place some new guerrillas. So the first option here is a vulnerable VC base. Vulnerable base is one which has no guerrillas protecting it. Well, all those bases had guerrillas, so nothing applies there. Going down. Spaces with the most population. So going through here, They're looking at spaces with the most population, so spaces with 2. So I'm going to put a marker to show where they could place, and we've got to sort of limit. So anywhere with 2 population, that does not have, going back to the normal rules, passive or active support, any place without support effectively. So there's at least 4 spaces already that they could place. Most population is 2 because Saigon's got 6. So we're looking at any 2 population space which does not have support. So there's quite a few. I'll put like those white pawns. So we've got to narrow it down further. Okay, most population. Most VC bases. So it wants to place them where they have a base. Okay, well, so that instantly gets rid of that one. No base. And that one. And that one. That's got 1 base. That's got 1 base. That's got 1 base. That's got 1 base. That's got none. So delete that one. So we narrowed it down. We carry on. Arvin is a player. There is no Arvin player. So we ignore that instruction. US is a player. Yes, I am a player. So most total support. Well, we're only placing in problems which don't have support, so that's not a true question. It could be a point where they're allowed to do something with place guerrillas, which allows them to place in an area with support. None of those areas have support, so that's an irrelevant question. NBA is a player? No. 1 to 2 VC guerrillas and room for a base. So it's now looking at spaces which have already 1 to 2 guerrillas and can take room for a base. Each province or city can have a maximum of 2 bases of any factions. So in this province here, for example, there's already 2 bases. One's VC and one's US. There's no more room for a base for any faction. So going back on there, there's 1 or 2 pieces here and there's room for a base. Yes, there is. So we'll keep that one there. Again, and keep that one there, and that one there, and that one there. All of those conditions applied. We've got continue down the track. City or province with fewest non-VC pieces. With the fewest. Okay, well, it's definitely not going to be that one because there's quite a lot of non-VC pieces. So we'll delete that. So there's 0 there. 0 here. Oh no, there's not. There's 2 US pieces, so not going to be that one. Delete. Well, so it could be Tainin. There's no non-VC pieces there. Or Quantin. So then the last option, select randomly from remaining spaces. So 1, 2, 3 is Quantin. It's not. It's Tainin. Okay. So we know that is the province that gets selected. And going back on the actual select spaces using place guerrillas. And it will at that point do the normal rally in that space. Going back on here. Place 1 VC guerrilla or replace 2 with a VC base. If a VC base, which we know there is one in Tainin, instead place VC guerrillas up to population plus VC base. So Tainin, go back down to there. I know, sorry about the scrolling, it's a big map and I need to show you the charts. I could just read the charts off, but I think showing you what it's actually saying and then explaining what it actually means will help in the long run. If you disagree, put it in the comments, then I know that I'm being too pedantic. So in Tainin, we have a base plus 2 population, so they will get to place 3 guerrillas in Tainin. Now, if I was playing a regular game, that would cost the VC 1 resource. So if this was played by a human, and then they could, as they're doing a full op, they could choose various areas. Depending on the amount of resources, they could do this in. Playing the bot, it restricts it there, and they're not keeping track of their money. So what's stopping them just doing this all over the place is going back on that number. As we've now completed select spaces using place guerrillas, I now roll a dice to see if they do that in another province. So if the result is that or lower on the dice, they stop. Here's the die roll. 5. So they continue. So we know they've done it in Tainin. Going through, I would then go through that one, all these options again, but we know that the next choice available to it was Quang Tin. So they now do exactly the same in Quang Tin, which is place 3 guerrillas. Because that would have been, that was the choice that was rejected, you know, on the random selection. So going through all those bullet points, it would come back up to Quang Tin. Population 2 plus a base, they get 3 guerrillas there. 1, 2, and 3. And then I would make that same die roll, which means they stop at that point. So going back on this card, so select spaces using place guerrillas. Flip most guerrillas where all are active, although we know there's no active guerrillas because nothing's happened there. And if that card, which was in play, which it isn't, it would tell us what to do there. Okay, that card's not in play. So we've now finished the rally. It now then says select one special activity, either A or B. So we look at conditions here. 2d6 so is greater than agitate total. We know the agitate total is 3. Tax in 1d3 spaces. Or VC base, where 2 plus underground guerrillas, and shift agitate total. And so let's follow that. So roll 2d6. If the total is greater than the agitate total, I will tax. They will tax in 1d3 spaces. Rolling 2d6. That's an 8. Is 8 greater than the agitate total? It is. Agitate total, as originally set up, is at 3. So it's telling me to tax. Now, tax, again, if I was playing with a player, would give the VC resources. Well, they're not playing with resources. So this is just one way. It's putting them into the bank in some fashion behind the scenes. So tax in 1d3 spaces. So let's actually have a look at the tax instructions. Zoom on that a little bit. Tax. Purpose gain resources. Accompany any actual operation. Well, in this case, we're doing rally. Location up to 4 spaces with an underground VC guerrilla and no coin control. So up to 4 spaces. Each space, activate a VC guerrilla, shift 1 level towards active support, and add VC resources equal to econ or twice population. Okay, so what does that mean is that we'll activate a guerrilla. They're going out collecting money to pay for all these operations. hence the word tax. No one likes paying tax. Okay, so it shifts wherever they do this towards the government, shifts them to support the actual government, because as I said, no one likes paying taxes. So some person comes around asking you for money, you're going to resent it and go towards the other side. And add VC resources equal to the econ, because the econ is if it was done on the road, you road tax, or twice the population. So again, if you were doing it over here in Quang you'd get 4 resources. They're not tracking resources, so you won't physically see it on the board, but they're doing it to get in the background. So that, so the activity, the negative side of it is still in effect. Wrong sheet. So going back on the actual card. Too many things open. Okay. Tax in 1d3 spaces. So where do I tax? Well, that's where this comes back into play. I now look at the word tax. I tax where it says most total opposition. And it did say 1d3 spaces, so I've got to determine how many spaces first. 6, so they're doing it in 3 spaces. Right? So most total opposition. Next up will be city or province with most VC guerrillas. Okay. I'm going to use the black markers this time. So most total opposition. So we're looking at here because we've got active opposition there. And it's got 5 guerrillas. Looking at here, active opposition, and it's got 5 guerrillas. So that's going to be 2 of the spaces. Third space. Okay. Because everywhere else has got 2 guerrillas. Back on here. Most total opposition. Most of the VC guerrillas. US or Arvin is 1 player, plus 1 econ locations. They haven't moved onto the econ location, so can't use that one. So then select at random. So we're looking still at ones with provinces of 2 with some form of opposition. So it can't be Quang Tri because that's neutral. Can't be Bindin, that's neutral. So it can be Quan Doc or Binte, either one of those 2 provinces there. Because the options were most total opposition, city or province with most VC guerrillas. So it couldn't be these 2 because they've only got 1 guerrilla. So it's going to be one of these 2. Will be the third. Okay. And then I'll determine it by random. So 1, 2, 3 is Quan Doc. Oh, it's Binte. All right. So that's my 3 that I tax. So with tax, you flip 1 guerrilla to active in each province. And you flip the opposition towards support. Which will actually be lowering their score, but they have to get taxed to gain resources. Even though they're not tracking resources, they still have to have resources in the background. And that's how they do that. So going back over here, up to 4 spaces, well, we determined it was 3, and then no coin control. In each space, activate VC guerrilla, we've done that. Shift 1 level towards active support, done that. And add VC resources equal to econ or twice population, again behind. behind the scenes. Going back on this card, we've done that. Okay. VC base, where 2+ population underground guerrillas. Yes, we did that part of it. And then shift agitate total +1 for each pop econ taxed. So we taxed for each pop or econ taxed. We taxed 2, 4, 5 population. So the agitate value goes from 3 + 5 to 8. Okay, which will have consequences for later. Right, that, I believe, concludes their faction play. So I will end faction play on that card. Over to the NBA. See that a bit on domino theory. So their options are lim op or event. Going back to this card now. So there's second eligible. So active faction will be first eligible on upcoming critical event and cannot execute any current critical event. So are they the first up on the next card? The answer is no. Active faction will be first eligible on upcoming, no. Second option. First eligible chose op at S8, which they did, and event is performed. So we now have to go and look back on that event. Is it performed? So looking at this table again, we know this is card 82. And for the NVA, it is a performed card. That P there. It's not critical, but performed. So looking on here. So first eligible chose op that they did. And event is performed or critical and effective. So is it effective for the NVA? So not Vietnam. A shaded or non-dual momentum event. It's not a momentum event. No, it doesn't have the word momentum on it. An NVA operation, special activity, or lim op. An NVA operations, is it giving them a lim op or special activity? No. Any capability or flips capability? No, there's no capabilities on there. So does it add or increase enemy pieces to out of play? It does. Enemy pieces to out of play? It does. So therefore, it fulfills that condition. Event is performed and effective. It's an effective for them. They choose the event. That. So bring in down to here. They choose the event. It's a pity. Okay, so US public doubts war's purpose. 3 available US troops out of play. Ouch. That's 3 of these boys. Draft dodgers go out of play. And this will start hurting my victory. How rude. And then the other condition on there, an aid -9. I'll just bump the aid up. Well, the Arvin did. And it goes down by 9. 25 to 16. Those two events sort of cancelled each other out, apart from I lost 3 troops. Dear, oh dear, oh dear. Okay. So that makes that end of faction play, end of card play, draw card. So we've concluded now 2 cards in the game, at which point I will pause. Okay, I'm going to pause for this episode. Hopefully, as we speed up, we'll get more familiarised with the decks and the tables. We'll do more than one card per episode. But this is a good pace I'm comfortable with at the moment. I am, as I say, learning these decks and how they work and configure. And I'm giving, hopefully, enough detail so you can actually you can follow along what I do. I know there's a lot of scrolling. There's a lot of detail on the map that I need you to see, especially on these charts and the options. Any comments? If you think I'm going into too much detail or the information is superfluous, please let me know. If you like what you're seeing, please like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. Otherwise, see you in the next episode.